My name is MattLucas, founder of JobMonkey, and I'm next on RecTech Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the RecTech Podcast, the recruiting technology show. I'm your host, Chris Russell. I'm a consultant who helps job boards and HR tech startups with strategy and marketing. So the goal of the show is to highlight innovative and interesting recruiting technology vendors, along with trends shaping the world of online recruitment. And today we have a great guest for you. But first, today's podcast is sponsored by RecruiterDiscounts.com, the site where recruiters save money on things they buy every day, like job board postings, tickets to HR events, and other cool technology tools for recruiting and HR. Check it out at RecruiterDiscounts.com and be sure to look for the JobMonkey discount under the job board section. We can save 20% on job postings at JobMonkey. So MattLucas, as he said, is the co-founder and president of JobMonkey.com. The website was launched back in 1999 and has become the premier website for people looking for cool jobs in the U.S. or abroad. Prior to JobMonkey, Lucas founded and ran a number of companies, including a travel company, a college marketing company, a publishing company, and a company that sold suntan lotion out of real coconut shells. We'll have to get down to that one. Lucas is also an active member of the Seattle startup community and has invested in or mentored over 30 Pacific Northwest startup companies. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's good to reconnect with you again. So, listeners, I've known Matt for a number of years, having met him at a job board conference long ago. And a few months ago, we reconnected at the TA Tech conference in Orlando, where we had dinner together and with some other people and got to hear the story of how JobMonkey started. So I wanted to have Matt on retell that tale for us because it's a great example just of an entrepreneur, fulfilling his will of starting his business and just a great story. So Matt, take me back to the days when you first first thought about JobMonkey. Where did it all start? Because it goes back to high school, I think, right?
It does, and it's going to date me a little bit here, but it goes back to the 80s. And back in high school, I grew up in Portland, or went to high school in Portland, Oregon. And throughout high school, I'd heard these rumors about how people were making lots of money working up in Alaska fishing industry during the summer. But there was not really any information available on it. When I got to my senior year, I was really interested because I was going off to college. I thought if I could work really hard during the summertime, I wouldn't have to work as hard during the school year in college. So. So I went to the library, looked for information, nothing there. And this is all pre-internet. This is back 80s, so it's pre-internet. I went to the library, called numbers up in Alaska that I could find. No one could give me information. So I said, I'm just going to figure this out and do it on my own. So I convinced two of my high school buddies to jump in my friend's Volkswagen Bug 3 days after we graduated from high school, and we just started driving north, not really hardly even knowing what we're getting into, where we're going, or anything, but we just started driving north. And after being on the road and I just looked at mileage here because it was kind of fuzzy, but after being on the road for about 730 miles, as I think as our second night, we got to a town in Canada called Prince George, and we're kind of like, okay, this bug travel isn't quite as luxurious as it's good for crossing town, but you're in this car and the roads aren't very good, and a lot of the roads are gravel or part dirt and stuff like that. Right. And we were kind of like, okay, this is going to be a long trip because we still have 2,000 miles to go to get to the, all the way up. You have to go all the way up. There's two highways, the Cassiar or the Alcan, the Alaska Canadian Highway, and all the way around to Anchorage and then back down to the coastline, basically. So it's Kenai, Homer, Seward, Valdez, those towns. So we're thinking, okay, that's going to be another, close to another week in this car. And then we somehow figured out that there's a ferry that leaves from a town on the coast in Canada called Prince Rupert and goes up to Alaska. We said, let's go do that. And that's only 8 hours away. So we kind of detoured, went that way, got to Prince Rupert, and get to the ferry dock there and found out that the ferry is leaving in 1 hour. And the next ferry doesn't come for a week. And we're here in a foreign country, Canada, with a car that we're going to be gone for the whole summer, and so we don't want to get impounded or disappear. Right. Actually, we tried to get the car on the ferry, and there's sold out and would have been way too expensive anyway, but it sells out months in advance. So we figured out then in this hour period that, okay, we need to do something with this car. We need to, buy our tickets. We need to load all our gear on. We need to get on this ferry and be there on the ferry within an hour. Otherwise, we're stuck for another week. So one of my buddies said, okay, I'll go park the car. Two of us stayed back and kind of pulled all the gear out. And right when he was driving off, and this is pre-cell phone, but right when he was driving off, we realized that we forgot our plan was to sleep in this big army tent, and that was going to be our home. We were going to camp somewhere in Alaska with a big army tent and live out of that. And when we was driving off, we realized we forgot the tent pole. So this tent is literally useless to us. It's big, heavy, 80 pounds, or I don't know what it was, 50 pounds. So we said, okay, we can't use this anymore, so we had to go climb through the woods and find a place that we'd hide it, that it'd still be there in 3 months when we got back. So we did that, all got back to the ferry, got on the ferry, get up to Ketchikan, and it's nice and sunny, and we're really getting excited now. Now we've kind of finally made it to Alaska.
Right.
Everything's going to be good.
How long into your journey so far?
I think 2 nights in the car, and then I don't remember how long the ferry was, maybe 8 hours or something like that. So we're probably on day 3 right now.
So day 3, you're in Alaska finally.
We're finally in Alaska. It's sunny. It's beautiful. And so we thought, okay, we're just going to, both get jobs really fast, and then 2 is find a place to stay pretty close to town. Well, you would think in Alaska that you could just plop your tent, or we didn't have a tent at that point, but you could just kind of camp out anywhere. Well, no, they're really, really strict. These towns usually either have a designated campsite, or they just don't allow camping anywhere. So the nearest legal camping in Ketchikan was 8 miles away at a place called Ward's Cove Lake Campground. So after milling around town a little bit, we hitchhiked out there and that night, and we kind of set up camp. So we had one hammock and nothing else, basically. And so 2 of us were sleeping on a picnic bench, and my friend was sleeping in his hammock. And at literally, not literally, but at about 3 or 4 in the morning, it starts pouring down rain on us like we haven't seen before. And I'm from Oregon, and it was pouring down rain. And then we said, okay, what do we do? We're getting cold. We don't have any real shelter or anything like that. So we decided to, obviously you're going to build a fire and get warm and then kind of figure out what we're going to do. So we gathered some wood, started trying to light the wood, and nothing would burn. And we're like, oh, that's really weird, but we couldn't get anything to burn at all. And we're going, okay. So we basically had nothing else to do but walk all the way back 8 miles into town at 4:30 in the morning, just going, okay, what do we get ourselves into? And we found out that day that Ketchikan is literally, I think it's the second rainiest place in all of North America. 160, 4 inches of rain a year, and we hit it on the one sunny day that they've had in for ages, basically. So that's why the wood wasn't burning, and that's why our camping was going to be pretty difficult going forward. Sure. We also found out that day that the fishing season didn't start for another 3 weeks. And we didn't know any of this, but the way that Alaska fishing seasons work, they kind of work almost like a north to south, basically. We're in the south. So some of the season started as early as Copper River just started last week, or a couple weeks ago, I guess. And then Bristol Bay starts in about a week or so. But this is the very last, so it didn't really get going until the week after 4th of July. So we were now 3 weeks from there, and we didn't have any credit cards. I think we each brought maybe $300 or $400 total, including gas money and everything to live off of. And now we had to survive for, another 3 weeks before there's any possibility we'd get a fishing job. So we were really roughing it. We were basically living off of $3 a day, going and getting a stale, day-old loaf of bread and a jug of Sunny Delight, and really just trying to make our money work. Right. But when I was up there, when all that was going on, and we're walking the docks every day, trying to see if any skippers would hire us, and asking people if we can do any part-time jobs or anything to kind of support ourselves, and weren't having much luck. And we did that for about 2 weeks. And finally, we ran into a skipper that offered to hire us. But we needed to, his requirements, we had to stay the whole season. That was through the first part of September. And one of my buddies was going off to Dartmouth College, and he had to leave by the second week of August, I think it was. So he couldn't go. But the skipper agreed to hire my friend and Charlie and I. And Steve stayed back and called two of his buddies to come up, and they flew up and worked in the processing plants. But Charlie and I got on the fishing boat, and after all this kind of misadventure and all this kind of hardship, I was thinking, God, if there was just some kind of resource that would have told us, when to go, where to go, what to bring, all those kind of things that would have saved us a lot of misery and effort and money and everything.
If only there was an app for that.
Pardon me?
If only if there was an app for that.
Oh, exactly. If there's an app for it, or the internet would be great too. But but so I started compiling stuff when we were working a lot of hours. I think we worked for the first month. We worked every day, 18 hours a day. But in the little bit amount of time that I had the mental capacity to kind of think about things, I'd write notes down, and we went to different ports. I would kind of jump off and try to do a little research and stuff like this, and talking to people and all that. And I started putting notes together on writing maybe a guide or something on working up there. So after the season was over, started college at University of Washington, and I thought, I'm going to really go with this. I'm going to see if there's a market for this, and so forth. So I worked a little bit more on getting notes together, and then I said, I'm going to and somehow I maybe read something in a business book or something that said you should test the marketplace. So I ran a few ads in some local college papers, and knowing that, first of all, knowing that I'm an 18-year-old, there's no way that a real publishing company is gonna take my book, because I'm not really even a professional writer. I'm 18 years old, never written a book before, and that would have been a long shot. So I said, okay, I'm going to self-publish it. I'm going to run some ads in college papers and say, send, I think it was $5.95 to this address, right. And just kind of see what the market demand was and so forth. And I thought it was only sell mostly in the Northwest, so I got a list of all the Northwest colleges and ran ads in the college paper, little classified ads. And orders started coming in, and I'm like, okay, this could be something. This is pretty interesting. So one night, and I remember this vividly. It was a Friday night.
Let me stop for a second. Go ahead. How long after you started the fishing job did you actually write the book? Did you actually self-publish it?
It was months. I think it was fall quarter. I was doing my notes, and I think the first part of winter quarter, my freshman year, is when I actually started advertising and wrote it.
Okay. All right, so you got out there, you started advertising, you get orders start coming in.
You start getting orders in, and then I remember on a Friday night, and I was in my room, and my girlfriend's all, what are you doing? And everyone's going off doing their party and stuff, and doing whatever they'd want to do on a Friday night. And I said, I'm writing a book, because I didn't really tell her what I was doing, and we weren't dating that long before that. So I said, I'm writing a book. And she goes, no, you're not. And I said, yeah, I'm writing a book. And there's no way you're writing a book. And so I went to my closet, and I had a big garbage bag, like a hefty 30-gallon or whatever it is, garbage bag full of envelopes. And I pull it out, and I dumped it out on my bed, and I said, open one of those. And she goes, what? And she opens one, there's $5.95 in there. Opens another one, $5.95. She goes, oh my God. So then I knew I basically had to get this book out that weekend. I had to get it finished and send it out, because it'd been about 3 weeks since I'd been advertising it, and there's only a certain amount of time you can really go without fulfilling kind of what
People were sending you cash?
Not much cash. Most were checks.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, but every once in a while there was cash in it, but most of them were checks. And so I ended up writing the first real book on working in the Alaska fishing industry, selling it mostly mail order to college students. And then the following year went back up there, did some research, wrote a better book, and I kind of did a cycle of this over and over again over the years. But after the second year, I was kind of thinking, okay, the fishing book business is doing pretty well. There are other things that college students or other places college students would be interested in going, but they just didn't know how. Right. And my buddy that stayed back, that was going to Dartmouth, was actually that next summer going to go teach English in Taiwan, conversational English. And so I got together with him. I said, when we kind of worked out an outline that he would go over there and research it, and we write a book on teaching conversational English over in Taiwan and Southeast Asia. So that was the second book that I wrote. I guess he wrote that one, and then started marketing that one, and then started pumping out a bunch of these different guides. We did one on working on the cruise ships. I did one of being a ski bum for the winter, working at ski resorts, another one for working at national parks, another one for working in casinos, and just all these different ideas that we thought that people might be interested in, and ended up having,
cool
I think
jobs,
we had
right?
all these kind of cool jobs, but they were detailed books. I mean, we kind of got it down. There were about 200-page books, and some of these industries, especially like Alaska, would change really fast. Companies would go in and out of business, so the standard book publishing format wasn't working very well. Where a typical book that you buy like in a bookstore, the information there, even a travel book, could be 2 years old, and that was kind of too dated for this week. We developed, and this is again pre-internet, so much easier now, but we developed a thing where we would sell the customers the book, but they'd also get a newsletter, which we'd update every month, and we'd do a hotline that we updated every week, basically. So they'd get much more up-to-date information. And we sold it, most of them we sold directly to consumers, but we also had a line that we sold in bookstores, which kind of had to follow the old format of more dated information. But
so you built this.
So did that grew it into a? Well, go ahead.
So you built this big publishing, essentially a publishing company.
Right.
How big did that eventually get, and then when did you sell that?
So I sold that in, it got to be about just over $8 million in sales. I think we had about 300 employees, and a lot of those were in our call centers. We had an inbound call center that people would call up and order the product. But we also had a good group of researchers, writers, and other aspects of the business, basically. And it got to be just over $8 million in sales. Sold it in 1997, and this was by 94, 95, the internet was just starting to really kind of take off, and everyone was figuring out, sort of trying to figure out how to make money or how to evolve it in their business. We were working on that pretty hard, but the company that bought this publishing company decided they wanted to just focus on the paper books because it kind of tied in a little bit with what their product line was. So they cut off kind of the internet things, and then by the next couple of years, internet was really taken off by 99. So I went over and worked at this company for, it was supposed to be a 3-year contract, and it ended up being just a little over 2 years. And toward the end in 99, I went to the owner of the company and I said, I've got this idea. I really would like to, kind of convert this business back over to the internet. He wasn't really interested in doing it there, but he was interested in being a partner in it, and letting me buy back all the IP, which is, I think we had at that time, 17 books, so 3,000 or 4,000 pages worth of really good content on working in these different industries. So I bought all that back, launched it all online, and launched JobMonkey basically, and got rid of. We weren't doing any paper business anymore, selling no products. It was all 100% online, and have been doing that basically since.
Okay, so that's how JobMonkey was born. So give us a sense more of what's on JobMonkey now, what types of jobs, and then give us a sense of also how big the site is in terms of visitors, things like that.
Sure. So since we're coming from a publishing background, we were really good at developing content. So we kind of kept that model up, and that's what makes us a little different than most of the job boards you see out there, in that we now cover, I think it's like 81 different industries or verticals or whatever you want to call them, and each one has probably between 60 and 200 pages of really good content for someone to kind of go through and how to, it's almost like the book but online, but it's evolved since then,
right.
But how to figure out what your different options are in these industries. And most of the ones we're covering are things that people might think they might want to do but would never really make the effort unless you make it easy for them to figure out how to do it, but they'd absolutely love doing it if they could get a job there. So that's kind of how the whole cool job thing came about, and in our kind of promotion of wanting people, really encouraging people to think outside of their hometown when they're kind of looking for their summer job or even before they start their careers, maybe travel a little bit. It doesn't have to be international, but it could be, but get somewhere else in a different environment, meet people, different experiences. Some of the jobs you make really good money at, like Alaska. Other ones you might be a volunteer somewhere and you might not make very much money at all, but enough to live off of. But all those are really good experiences before you get tied down into your career job, where it's going to be really hard for you to, get any sizable amount of travel time in most jobs. So.
What do you think are some of the cooler jobs on the site now? If you had to pick, say, 3 or 4, what stands out to you in terms of, hey, this is a cool job to go after? What's on there now?
Oh, that's a good question, Chris. there's all kinds of cool jobs, and it kind of depends on the individual. Like, obviously, I still have kind of a passion for the Alaska jobs. There's a company that's recruiting through us that's hiring a bunch of conversational English teachers in China. Those are pretty cool jobs. There's
what does that
jobs
pay, for
with what's that?
What does that pay, for example?
Well, it pays in Chinese rubles, and they cover all your living expenses. They cover your they give you a reimbursement for your airfare, and you make, I think it's about $1,200 to $1,400 a month. So you're not getting rich doing it. If you want to teach English in certain other countries like Japan, you can make more money per hour. But there, it's a pretty good experience. They treat you pretty well. They cover your expenses, most of your expenses, provide you room and board. So that's good. But there's all kinds of other great jobs too. There's working on a cruise ship. Some people would love that. I personally wouldn't, but others love it. And working at a beach resort, doing bicycle tours in Europe, being a video game, be a video game tester. There's all kinds of them. A company recently, and this is more for people that maybe, I think the requirement was like 8 years of military experience, but they need a law enforcement officers in a park in Congo to kind of help enforce the poaching, basically. So it's just these really cool kind of experiences, and they're not all, there can be some, we cover more mainstream industries and so forth, but we try to get people to think about just maybe getting outside of their home environment and doing these different jobs. So,
and these are jobs all across the world, or just the U.S. or?
It's both. It's across the world, but I'd say 80% are U.S. and then 20% are international.
Okay. How big is the site, Matt? How many visitors do you get on a monthly basis?
We get just over 1 million page views a month and about 300,000 unique visitors a month.
Okay.
And then we'd get a number of those unique visitors will come back multiple times during the month, but that's not counted in that number.
About how many jobs are on the site now?
I don't know the exact job count, but there's thousands on there. I know there's been about 1,000 or over 1,000 now employers that have set up profiles on our site. Not all are posting jobs, or by any means, not all are, but there's a lot. There's a good variety of jobs on there and all kinds of different jobs, basically. So,
when you're telling your story there about a lot of the content you have on there, it sounds like you were very the phrase "content is king." And I tell job boards today, you have to have a lot of content online to help your job listings. And it sounds like you were probably one of the first to really take that to the max. I think if you have 60 to 200 pages of content for each kind of vertical, that's pretty great.
Yeah, no, and it really, we benefited because that stuff, that content optimized very well in the search engines because we were really early into it. So, and we still live off of that. Really, right now, 90+% of all of our traffic is organic search or inbound links coming to us.
That's amazing.
Very little of our traffic do we have to buy. So it keeps us, and it brings people in that are actively looking for those because they've made a conscious decision to go to like Google and type in a search term and looking for those and then come to find our site. So it's good, solid traffic that's coming in. So
are you now at this point? Are you actively adding more content all the time? Are you tweaking it? How much of the content do you do?
We the most recent section we just published is sharing economy jobs. So we went through and those are pretty interesting jobs because they offer all kinds of flexibility, and there's more than just Uber is great and Lyft and those, but we kind of went through all the different kind of sectors of that and profiled the major companies there and shows people, telling people about them, but also shows how to apply for those type of jobs. And there's ways of piecing some of those companies together. Like you can go to Paris or Rome and live and actually do some of these. You can set up a little tour business there really easily where you walk people around or cook people meals. I mean, there's all kinds of different really interesting things there. So so we came out with that section recently. And then a section that for some reason we never really addressed, even though a lot of people used us for that, was just gap years. So we're kind of redoing that section and just really reinforcing kind of Americans taking gap years. It's been very popular overseas in Australia and England and everywhere. But Americans are just, I think, this is starting to get more popular that they're starting to think that that taking a gap year is worthwhile, and a lot of the higher-end universities are actually encouraging applicants to hold their space. Harvard or Yale will hold your space for the year if you took a gap year in between. So you don't necessarily have to blow off going to college. You can still have that roadmap, but you take this great experience where you travel, experience things, then you come back and get your degree, and you're probably more prepared for it when you come back from your trip. So.
Yeah. Do you do all writing yourself, Matt? Do you have a team of writers working on this stuff? How big is your team?
I have one main writer that is writing a lot of my stuff now, and then I've got a number of contract people, or if we do a new section, we'll source out domain experts, basically. So we will do some research, try to find people that are good writers, but also know the ins and outs of a different industry, and contract them to do a section for us.
Any tips for others in terms of finding good writers? Do you have any sites or places you tend to go to? We
use Odesk, or now it's called
Upwork?
Upwork, or Upwork. So we use that quite a bit, but I think I haven't really had to source out new writers in a little while, because the writers, we built up maybe 30 writers that we've used, so and we haven't been doing a bunch of new industry. I mean, we've done these two new. We did Gap Year, we did Sharing Economy, but we haven't been doing a lot more like big, deep verticals in the last 3 years. So, but we're doing a lot of updating of it, because even though a lot of this content is what's called evergreen, but it still needs to be updated on a regular basis. Sure. So you still go through each of the sections and making sure that you're updating things that change or whatever. So.
Does your site's traffic spike in the summer season? I would imagine it's kind of more of a seasonal type of thing sometimes.
It used to be that way, Chris, and now it's pretty. And part of it was a conscious decision. It used to be a lot of focus on summer jobs, but then we made a conscious effort for a little while to say, okay, we need to kind of balance that out. But then just naturally, it's balanced out. So you have ski resorts, cruise lines, beach resorts, and just other seasonal employers that hire. They have different peak seasons. So we don't see really a huge spike anymore. It's pretty level for most of the year.
Yep. Okay. Now, what should recruiters know about recruiting this kind of seasonal or gig worker that would help them recruit better? Do you have any tips around that you could tell people?
Yeah, there's a few things that we seem to see effective. One is, obviously write, and some of this stuff is pretty standard, but, write a really good job description, job title. But the other thing we're seeing working really well on our job postings is visual aspects. So adding pictures, adding video if you have it. It doesn't even have to be a video about that position, but maybe a video profile on the company or a news story that's been done or anything to just give someone a little bit of visual effect on the company or the type of jobs and so forth. Mm-hmm. And just people are, big block of text these days in a job posting. Sometimes, especially with millennials, they're they're not going to read it. So if you have a few pictures there to entice them, or a video or something like this, it's going to get them a little bit more interested and maybe spend some more time to really think about it and apply. So
sure, definitely. How about on the reverse side? What advice for job seekers do you have kind of entering a seasonal resort or type of job out there?
Yeah, no, I say think outside the box. Think about, your dream job. Explore things. Don't get yourself locked into, I have to do this, I have to do that. Kind of spend a little bit of time researching, look at your different opportunities, evaluate them. Don't think you can't do it, because you really, with most of these jobs, you really can do. It's most of them don't require a lot of special skills or anything, and it's just a matter of just learning how to do it. So between the actual job postings on our site, but also the content, it kind of helps you walk yourself through, kind of putting a list of different ideas or that you might want to do, and then you start kind of focusing in a little more and applying for the ones that that you think is right for you. So some people, their goal is to make a lot of money. Others they want a great experience. Other ones, they want to travel international. So it's just everyone's got little different things that they want or that might be interesting to them, but they should think those through a little bit, research them a little bit, and kind of come up with a list and then kind of go from there. So
So I want to know, are there jobs with Deadliest Catch up there? Can I go on and go crabbing in Alaska?
Do you want to do that?
No.
Yeah, that series, that's pretty interesting because it's a really good series, but those jobs are really hard to get, the crabbing boat jobs.
Oh, really?
I would get phone calls all the time from people saying, I want to work on a crabbing boat. And it's, of course, it's appealing, but there's kind of a process to kind of get up to that. You got to work on maybe a different kind of fishing boat, which is much easier to get on, get some experience on the water, know you're not seasick, know you can work it, know it's good for you, and then maybe in the next season you kind of try to break into that. But there's very few, jobs for what's called a green worker. So
how about gold mining? Can I go up to Alaska and gold mine?
There is some gold mines that are trying to get approval. You could gold pan. You can be a prospector up there. You could, we haven't covered the gold mining aspect, and maybe
you ever watch
I don't
Gold
know.
Rush? I love my favorite show is Gold Rush.
I have not watched that one. Is it good?
Yeah, really good, really good. Recommend.
Okay.
Yep. There's also Bering Sea Gold too, which is another great one.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, there's been a couple fishing shows I know that I've kind of kept up on, but then wasn't there the ice trucking one?
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, and I never saw that one, but I don't know much about that. To be honest,
ice road trucking jobs on the site.
Yeah, we do have actually. I think we do have a page on it, kind of walking people through it. That's another thing we've done. So we also started doing just really unique job pages. It's like a one-page profile on kind of the job opportunity, basically, with links there telling people how to kind of look for the job opportunities or apply and that kind of thing. But we've done all kinds of them on that one, and those are pretty fun and get pretty good traffic. Everything from being a venomous snake milker to being a drone operator to a zip line, tour guide. I mean, just all kinds of really a dolphin trainer, elephant trainer, really kind of these wacky ones. But people seem to like them, and there are jobs there. It's just they're just jobs you might not find on a typical job board. But if you know how to go about, getting them, which we try to walk people through, there are actually jobs that are possibilities. So.
Well, it's an interesting niche to be in, Matt. I think it's really unique and one that's always going to be there. You can't outsource these jobs typically. So as we kind of wrap this up, Matt, my last question for you is, what's a typical day life for MattLucas? Walk me through your day. I know you're a busy entrepreneur. You have a small team, just yourself sometimes. What's the day like for you as a job board entrepreneur?
It's and you probably hear this from a lot of the other people that you interview, but you wear a lot of hats, and you always seem like you can never catch up. It's just always something that you're dealing with. So everything from the first thing, I'm on the West Coast, so you guys start a little earlier. But by the time I log in at 7:30 or something in the morning, the world's already been going on. East Coast's been going on for 3 hours, but Europe's been going on for longer and all that. So you've got tons of emails of just various things that you need to get through, and people want to talk to you for one reason or another, for a business opportunity, or they've got a question about something. But I try to make a number of hours every day to really kind of keep dialing into our website and make it, figure out ways of making it better, both for the job seeker and the employer. And that's always trying to spend some time on that every day, or at least a lot of hours every week, of improving things, because things evolve. You got to make things mobile friendly. You've got to all these different things. You've got to make them faster. You've got to make the content better. You've got to figure out how people are using your content and say, okay, can I get the information to them more effectively? Is there a way that we can kind of go through and do a quiz? We'll bring up ideas for what jobs they should look at, and all those kind of things that you kind of evaluate and see if you can do to just make it a better experience for everyone. So,
Excellent. Well, Matt, we certainly appreciate the time. The site is JobMonkey.com. Matt, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on. It's fun.
All right. And that's going to do it for this edition of the RecTech Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Chris Russell, or visit rectechmedia.com. You can find the audio and links for the show on our blog as well. If your firm would like to be interviewed for an upcoming show, pitch me by emailing Chris at rectechmedia.com. I'm looking for HR tech startups, job boards, even recruiters who want to share how they use digital recruiting in their day-to-day lives. Thanks for listening, everyone.